On Christmas Eve, a powerful and cold man discovers that the greatest gift in life may come from an unexpected invitation by someone who has nothing to offer, except everything that truly matters. It was Christmas Eve in Boston, and the city center pulsed with colorful lights reflecting in puddles on sidewalks, dampened by the afternoon's light rain. Illuminated storefront windows displayed mannequins dressed in festive attire, while entire families carried heavy bags of fruitcakes and last-minute gifts. Children ran among the choirs performing in front of Faneuil Hall, their angelic voices echoing between the historic buildings downtown. Among the hurried comings and goings of people preparing for Christmas dinner, a man observed in silence, seated on a bench in Boston Common. His hands remained buried in the pockets of his dark wool coat, even though he wore imported leather gloves. The cold December wind cut across his face, but he seemed oblivious to the discomfort, lost in thoughts that had consumed him for days. Michael Parker was 28 years old with the world at his feet. His tech startup had been valued in the millions, and business magazines competed to feature his face on covers that proclaimed him as the young prodigy of American innovation. His suits were custom-tailored, his apartment had a panoramic view of the city, and his Tesla was parked in the private garage of one of Boston's most expensive buildings. But there, amid Christmas carols and the smell of French toast escaping from nearby bakeries, he felt absolutely empty. As if he were a spectator watching other people's lives through a foggy window, unable to feel the warmth that seemed to envelop everyone around him. The phone vibrated in the inner pocket of his coat. It was his mother's third call that afternoon. He let it ring until it went to voicemail, as he had done with the previous ones. He knew exactly what she wanted, to convince him to appear at the beach house in Cape Cod for the family Christmas dinner. The same performance as every year, where he would be exhibited as a trophy by his parents, who were proud to present their successful son to friends, but who had never shown genuine interest in knowing him as a person. "Michael, my dear, you need to come. I've already confirmed your attendance to Mrs. Wilson and Mr. Thompson. They're eager to meet our CEO," said the message his mother had left on WhatsApp earlier, accompanied by heart and Christmas tree emojis. He sighed, watching a family pass. In front of him, the father carried a small girl on his shoulders, while the mother held the hand of a boy who jumped trying to reach the artificial snowflakes falling from a suspended decoration. They were all laughing, and for a moment Michael wondered what it would be like to have someone who genuinely cared about his presence, not his bank account or social status. As the park clock marked almost 7 in the evening and the sky darkened, in bluish tones, he continued watching people coming and going with firm steps, too busy to notice the elegantly dressed man sitting alone on the bench. The loneliness was so intense it physically hurt, like a weight crushing his chest. That's when he felt a small presence beside him, almost imperceptible amid the intense flow of people. Glancing over, he saw a little girl with golden curls loose, under a red knitted cap, holding a small package wrapped in brown paper. She looked at him with silent curiosity, her nose reddened by the cold, as she swayed her body slightly as if trying to gather courage for something. Michael remained motionless, curious, but showing nothing beyond the apathy that had become his default expression. The girl didn't seem to be more than 6 years old, and there was something in her light brown eyes that intrigued him. Unlike the looks he received in business meetings or social events, that childish gaze carried no expectations or ulterior motives. If you found this story interesting, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give it a like. Tell us which city you're watching from. We continue. The girl remained there for a few minutes, observing Michael with that childlike curiosity that knows no shyness or social convenience. He could feel her gaze, but kept his eyes fixed on the passing crowd, pretending not to notice her presence. There was something disturbing about the situation. When was the last time someone had observed him without wanting something in return? The silence between them stretched until she took a step forward, still holding the small package against her chest. Michael finally faced her, and for a moment felt as if he were looking into a mirror of the past, the same feeling of not belonging that he had carried for years. "Are you alone, sir?" asked the girl, her sweet voice cutting through the noise of the park. Michael hesitated. It was a simple question, but one that hit him unexpectedly. He was alone, yes, but not just on that night. He had been alone for so long that he had forgotten what it was like to have someone genuinely interested in his answer. "I am," he replied, surprising himself with his own honesty. The girl tilted her head as if processing the information. "My mom says nobody should be alone at Christmas, that it's a time to be with family." "Your mom is right," Michael murmured, feeling a tightness in his chest. "And where is she?" "At home, finishing dinner. I came to buy bread at Mr. Joe's bakery." She raised the package. "He always gives children a sweet roll as a present on Christmas Eve." Michael nodded, not quite knowing what to say. There was something touching about the simplicity of that child, in the way she talked about simple traditions that he had lost amid the rush of building a corporate empire. "What's your name?" he asked, for the first time in a long time genuinely interested in the answer. "Lily," she answered, smiling shyly. "And yours?" "Michael." Lily repeated his name softly, as if testing how it sounded. "Michael. That's a nice name. Do you live nearby?" "Not too far," he replied, avoiding details about his penthouse in the most expensive neighborhood in the city. The girl was silent for a moment, swaying her body while looking at the movement in the park. Then, as if she had made an important decision, she raised her light brown eyes toward him. "Do you want to come to our house for dinner?" she asked, with a shy smile that lit up her small face. "My mom always makes too much food, and she says, sharing food brings good luck." Michael took a few seconds to process the invitation. The words echoed in his mind like something surreal, almost impossible to be true. When was the last time someone had invited him to something without expecting anything in return, without wanting to discuss business, without trying to impress, contacts without ulterior motives? "I don't know if it would be appropriate," he stammered, completely disarmed by the innocence of the invitation. "Why not?" Lily tilted her head, genuinely confused. "You're alone, we have food. My mom always says sharing is what makes Christmas special." Before Michael could respond, Lily had already turned around, running across the walkway toward the street. "I'm going to tell Mom I invited you. She'll be happy," she shouted over her shoulder, the red cap bouncing with her golden curls. Michael remained seated, staring at the empty space she had left, while his chest burned with a discomfort he couldn't name. The invitation had been so natural, so unpretentious, that it had caught him completely off guard. How many elegant dinners had he attended in recent years, surrounded by people who wanted his attention, his money, his influence? And here was an unknown child, offering him a place at the table simply because no one should be alone on Christmas. He stood up without planning, driven by an impulse he couldn't control. His feet began to move in the direction Lily had taken, crossing the crowd with uncertain steps. For the first time in years, Michael Parker didn't know exactly what he was doing, but he felt he needed to find out. Michael walked for 2 blocks through the streets of Brookline, following the direction Lily had taken. The contrast between that neighborhood and his own was striking. The houses were simpler, the buildings older, but there was something welcoming about the way Christmas lights decorated the windows and balconies. It was as if each family had made a point of spreading a bit of Christmas magic, even with limited resources. He saw her running up the steps of a 3-story building, with a brick facade and bars on the ground floor windows. The gate was open, and Michael hesitated on the sidewalk, observing through the 2nd-floor window. Through the simple curtains he could see Lily jumping into the arms of a woman with golden hair tied in a low bun, wearing a light brown jacket worn at the elbows. The woman, who must have been Emily, Lily's mother, heard something Lily said excitedly, and her face turned toward the window. Her eyes met Michael's through the glass, and he felt a shiver that had nothing to do with the night's cold. There was caution in that look, as if she were assessing whether he represented any danger. But there was also something he hadn't seen, in years in the eyes of people he knew, humanity without interest, genuine concern. It wasn't the calculating look of someone who wanted something from him, but of a mother protecting her daughter. Michael stood on the sidewalk for a few minutes, debating with himself whether he should leave. The whole situation seemed surreal. A millionaire CEO following an unknown child to her home on Christmas Eve. What would his partners say? His parents? The business press? But before he could convince himself to leave, he saw Lily in the window, waving enthusiastically to him. The girl said something to her mother, who sighed and disappeared from view. Moments later, the building door opened, and Emily appeared at the top of the stairs. "You must be Michael, whom Lily invited," she said, descending the steps carefully. Her voice was soft but carried an education that couldn't completely hide her distrust. "Yes, I apologize for the unusual situation," Michael stammered, feeling completely out of his element. "Your daughter invited me to dinner, but I understand if it's inconvenient." Emily observed him for a moment, as if trying to decipher him. She must have been about 30, and there was a natural beauty in her face, even tired from life's responsibilities. Her brown eyes were intelligent, and Michael could see she wasn't easily fooled. "Lily has a very big heart," she finally said, "sometimes too big for her own safety." "I'm not dangerous," Michael hurried to say, then realized how that sounded. "I mean, I understand your concern. A child inviting a stranger." "Exactly." Emily crossed her arms. "And you? Why did you accept a 6-year-old child's invitation?" The question caught him off guard. Why had he followed Lily? The obvious answer would be that he was curious, but there was something deeper he couldn't name. "I was alone," he admitted, surprising himself with his own vulnerability. "And she said no one should be alone at Christmas." Emily studied his face for a long moment. Michael could see she was weighing the pros and cons, assessing if she could trust him. Finally, she sighed and moved away from the door. "No one should be alone at Christmas," she murmured, more to herself than to him. "But if you do anything that puts my daughter in danger—" "I wouldn't," Michael interrupted, with more conviction than he had felt in any corporate negotiation. Emily nodded slowly and gestured for him to come in. "Then come. The food is already getting cold." When he finally entered the building, Michael smelled the mustiness mixed with the scent of garlic and onion escaping from some apartment. The corridor walls were painted a faded yellow, and the ceramic floor was worn by time. It was a completely different world from what he knew, but there was something comforting in that simplicity. As he climbed the stairs behind Emily, he wondered what he had gotten himself into, but for the first time in a long time, the uncertainty didn't bother him. The apartment was small, but Michael was greeted by a sense of coziness he hadn't experienced in a long time. The old wooden floor creaked softly under his feet, and the walls were decorated with children's drawings attached with Scotch tape, purple horses, houses with smoking chimneys, and a family of stick figures smiling under a bright yellow sun. "Excuse the mess," said Emily, removing some toys from the coffee table. "We weren't expecting visitors." "Don't worry," Michael replied, genuinely touched by the intimacy of the environment. "It's perfect." In the corner of the small living room, a plastic Christmas tree, crooked and missing some branches, was decorated with stars made of laminated paper and colorful ribbons that had clearly been reused from old gifts. There was no uniformity in the ornaments. Some were handmade, others seemed to have been purchased in cheap department stores, but the ensemble had a charm that the professional trees in his office never managed to achieve. "I made this star. Here?" Lily ran to the tree, proudly pointing to a crooked ornament made with golden paper. "And my mum helped me glue the glitter on this one." Michael smiled, observing the girl's excitement. "It's very beautiful, Lily. You're an artist." "Mum, he liked our tree," she shouted, running to the American kitchen where Emily was finishing setting the simple table. The table was set with unmatched plates, some white, others with small blue flowers, clearly remnants of different sets. There was a golden roasted chicken in the center, white rice stuffing that exhaled a tempting smell, and a small pot of potato salad. It was a simple meal, but prepared with care. "I hope you like home cooking," said Emily, drying her hands on her apron. "It's nothing very sophisticated." "It's been a long time since I've eaten home cooking," Michael admitted, and realized it was true. His last Christmases had been in expensive restaurants or social events with elaborate buffets that prioritized presentation over flavor. Lily had already sat in her chair, swinging her legs that didn't reach the floor. "Mum, can Michael sit in Daddy's chair?" An awkward silence took over the environment. Emily tensed, and Michael realized he had touched on a sensitive subject. "Lily, dear, we've talked about this," Emily said softly. "There is no Daddy's chair. There are just our chairs. But before you said that, Lily," Emily's voice was firm but loving, "how about we show Michael how we give thanks before eating?" The girl nodded, clearly used to changing the subject when her mother used that tone. Michael sat down, not knowing exactly what he was getting into, but feeling that each second in that apartment was transforming him in some way. "We always give thanks for the food and for special people," explained Lily, extending her small hands. "Will you hold hands with us?" Michael looked at Emily, who nodded with a tired smile. He extended his hands, one to Lily, another to Emily. The touch of her skin was warm, and he felt an electric current he hadn't expected. "Thank you for the food, for the special people at our table, and for another Christmas together," said Emily, closing her eyes. "And thank you for Michael coming to have dinner with us," Lily added, squeezing his hand. When they opened their eyes, Michael felt something different moving in his chest. It was as if that simple moment had opened, a door he had kept locked for years. As Emily served the food, first Lily, then him, and finally herself, Michael observed the loving dynamic between mother and daughter. "Tell Michael about your piano lessons," Emily suggested. "I play piano at daycare," Lily said, chewing a piece of chicken. "Mom taught me, and now I teach the other children. Want to hear?" Before Michael could respond, Lily had already jumped from her chair and run to a small digital keyboard in the corner of the room. Her small hands played a childish version of Silent Night, and Michael felt his eyes sting. This is how Christmas should be, he thought. It wasn't about expensive gifts or elaborate meals, but about simple moments shared with people who genuinely cared about each other. If you found this story interesting, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give it a like. Tell us which city you're watching from. We continue. After dinner, while Lily played with some toys on the living room rug, Michael offered to help Emily with the dishes. She hesitated for a moment, clearly not used to receiving help, but eventually accepted. "You don't have to do this," she said, passing him wet plates to dry. "You were already very kind to accept our invitation." "It was Lily who invited me," Michael smiled, "and to be honest, I should be thanking you. It's been years since I had such a real Christmas." Emily looked at him curiously. "Real? How so?" Michael was silent for a moment, drying a plate with excessive care. "My family, we have elaborate dinners with expensive china and imported wines, but there's never any real warmth, you know. It's all very ceremonial." "Must be difficult," she said softly, "to have everything and at the same time have nothing." Her insight surprised him. "How do you know I have everything?" "Your clothes, your way of speaking, the way you look at the simple things here in our home." Emily dried her hands on the towel. "You're not used to this, are you?" "No," he admitted, "but I like it here. I like how you treat each other, how Lily smiles for no reason, how you truly care about her." Emily was silent for a moment, watching her daughter, who was now humming softly while playing. "It wasn't always like this," she finally said. "There was a time when I thought family was about other things. What changed?" "Lily changed everything." Emily smiled, but there was sadness in her eyes. "When she was born, I realized I had spent years trying to build a life that wasn't mine, trying to be someone I wasn't." Michael felt there was a bigger story behind those words, but didn't want to press. Instead, he observed Lily, who had approached the Christmas tree and was rearranging the ornaments. "Mom, can I give my present to Michael?" Lily asked, running to a small cabinet and retrieving something wrapped in reused gift paper. "Lily, dear, you don't need to," Emily began, but the girl was already extending the package to Michael. "I made it for you," she said, her eyes shining with expectation. Michael opened the gift carefully, finding a drawing made with crayons on paper. It was an image of 3 people holding hands in front of a Christmas tree, with the phrase "Our Family" written in crooked letters at the bottom. "It's me, you, and Mum," Lily explained, pointing to the figures. Because you came to have dinner with us and now you're part of our family. Michael felt his throat tighten. No one had ever given him such a simple yet profound gift. He looked at Emily, who was watching him with an indecipherable expression. "It's the most beautiful gift I've ever received," he said, and every word was absolutely true. "Really?" Lily jumped, clapping her hands. "Really?" Michael carefully folded the drawing and tucked it into the inner pocket of his coat. "I'll keep it forever." As the night progressed, Michael found himself increasingly comfortable in that environment. Lily showed him her storybooks, Emily made simple coffee, and the three sat on the small sofa watching a Christmas movie on the old television. It was exactly the opposite of how he had imagined he would spend that night, alone in his penthouse, working on spreadsheets or watching expensive movies in his private home theater. "Do you have family, Michael?" Lily asked, resting her head on his arm. "I do," he replied, stroking the girl's hair, "but it's complicated." "Why?" "Sometimes people in our family don't know how to show they like us," he explained, surprised by his own honesty. "They might give expensive gifts or throw beautiful parties, but they forget to give hugs or ask how we're feeling." "That's very sad," Lily said, looking at him with her big eyes. "Here we always give hugs." And without warning, she threw herself into his arms, hugging him tightly. Michael closed his eyes, feeling an emotion he couldn't name. When was the last time someone had hugged him without wanting anything in return? When was the last time he felt truly embraced? When he looked at Emily, he saw she was smiling, but there was something worried in her expression, as if she, too, was wondering what that unexpected encounter meant for all of them. It was almost 11 at night when Michael realized he should leave. Lily had fallen asleep in his lap during the movie, and Emily carried her carefully to the bedroom, whispering a lullaby he had never heard, but that sounded like the sweetest melody in the world. "She really liked you," said Emily when she returned, sitting on the sofa next to him. "It's been a long time since I've seen her so comfortable with someone new." "I liked her too," Michael replied, looking toward the bedroom where the girl was sleeping. "I liked both of you." Emily smiled, but there was hesitation in her eyes. "Michael, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest with me." "Of course." "What do you really want with all of this?" she asked, crossing her arms. "Because men like you don't usually appear in apartments like this without a specific reason." The question caught him off guard. "Men like me? Successful, rich, accustomed to getting what they want." Emily studied him carefully. "You said you have family, but you're alone at Christmas. You have money, but you're here eating roast chicken on mismatched." "Perfectly understood. I've been in that place, trying to be the perfect wife, the perfect daughter, the person everyone wanted me to be, until I realized I was losing myself in the process." "What did you do?" "I chose to be Lily's mother above all else," she answered. "I chose our happiness above others' expectations. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't always the most popular decision, but it was the right one." Michael felt there was a deeper story behind those words, but didn't want to press. Instead, he stood up, knowing it was time to leave. "Thank you," he said, picking up his coat, "for receiving me, for including me, for reminding me of what really matters." "Thank you for accepting Lily's invitation," Emily replied, accompanying him to the door. She was very happy today. So was I. At the door, Michael hesitated. Can I visit you again? I don't want to be inconvenient, but..." "You will always be welcome here," Emily said, and there was sincerity in her voice. "But Michael?" "Yes." "Be honest with us. And be honest with yourself. Lily has already grown fond of you, and I can't let her get hurt." Michael nodded, understanding perfectly her concern. "I promise." The way back home was completely different from the way there. Michael drove slowly through the streets of Boston, observing the Christmas decorations that still shone in the windows. For the first time in years, he wasn't in a hurry to get anywhere. When he finally arrived at his apartment, the difference was striking. The penthouse was impeccable, as always. Designer furniture, expensive artwork on the walls, a spectacular view of the city. But everything seemed cold and lifeless compared to the small apartment he had just left. He sat on the Italian leather sofa, taking Lily's drawing from his pocket. "Our family," said the crooked phrase, and Michael felt his chest tighten again. When was the last time someone had considered him family? That night, Michael could barely sleep. He lay awake thinking about Lily falling asleep in his lap, about how Emily cared for her daughter with such affection, about the feeling of belonging somewhere. For the first time in his adult life, he began to question whether all his financial success was really worth it if he had no one genuine to share it with. And for the first time, he also began to wonder what he really wanted from his life going forward. Michael woke up the next day with a strange sensation. For the first time in months, he didn't feel that familiar weight in his chest when he opened his eyes. Christmas morning was sunny, and through the panoramic window of his penthouse, he could see Boston awakening to the holiday. But instead of feeling satisfied with the privileged view, he found himself thinking about the small apartment in Brookline. Had Lily already woken up? Was Emily preparing breakfast in that small but cozy kitchen? He got up and went to his gourmet kitchen, equipped with state-of-the-art appliances he rarely used. He opened the refrigerator, finding only some expensive yogurts and a bottle of French champagne he had bought to impress a client and never drank. There was nothing that resembled real food, much less something that could be prepared with care. The memory of Emily's roast chicken made his stomach growl. When was the last time he had felt genuine hunger? When was the last time he had eagerly anticipated a meal? He picked up his phone and saw several unread messages. His mother had sent photos of the family dinner in Cape Cod, a huge table, perfect. Decorations, sophisticated dishes, everything very beautiful, but it awakened in him nothing beyond indifference. "You missed a wonderful dinner, darling," said one of the messages. "Mrs. Wilson asked about you. She said her son is interested in doing business with your company." Michael sighed. Always business, always interest. Never just, "We missed you," or "We wished you were here because we love you." That's when an idea began to form in his mind. He wanted to somehow repay what Lily and Emily had given him the night before, not just the food or hospitality, but that feeling of belonging, of being accepted without conditions. He left home and drove to a mall that operated on special hours on Christmas Day. First, he stopped at an expensive bakery and bought an artisanal panettone, not one of those mass-produced ones he saw on supermarket shelves, but something special, made with select ingredients. Then he went to a toy store. He stood in front of the shelves, trying to imagine what Lily would like. He remembered the small keyboard she had played the night before, the drawings taped to the walls, the way her eyes lit up when she talked about teaching piano to other children. He chose a set of professional colored pencils, a special drawing pad, and some children's storybooks. They weren't expensive gifts by his standards, but he had thought carefully about each one. On his way to Brookline, he stopped at a florist and bought a small arrangement of wildflowers, nothing too elaborate, but colorful and cheerful like Lily's smile. When he arrived at the building, he hesitated again. Maybe it was too soon, maybe he was being inconvenient, but the memory of the previous night was stronger than his doubts. He climbed to the second floor and knocked softly on the door. He heard running footsteps, and soon Lily opened the door, still in pajamas, her hair messy from sleep. "Michael," she shouted, jumping into his arms. "Mom, Michael's back." Emily appeared in the kitchen, drying her hands on a towel. She wore a simple robe, and there was an expression of surprise on her face. "Good morning," Michael said, a little awkwardly. "I brought some things for you, to thank you for last night." "You didn't have to," Emily began, but Lily was already looking at the bags with curiosity. "Can I see?" she asked, clapping her hands. Michael handed the bags to her, watching her reaction. When Lily saw the colored pencils, her eyes lit up. "Are these for drawing?" she asked, taking a red pencil from the package. "For drawing, coloring, creating?" "Whatever you want," Michael replied, smiling. "And there are books," she discovered, leafing through one of the storybooks. "Mom, look how many books," Emily approached, picking up the panettone. "Michael, this is very expensive," she said, concerned. "It's not about the money," he replied. "It's about returning a little of the kindness you showed me." "But we didn't do anything special," Emily insisted. "We just offered a simple dinner." "You offered me much more than dinner," Michael said, looking at Lily, who was already trying out the colored pencils. on the living room floor. You offered me a home. Emily was silent for a moment, watching her daughter draw. Would you like to have breakfast with us? She finally asked. I'd love to, Michael replied, and realized it was exactly where he wanted to be on that Christmas morning. During breakfast, Michael observed more closely the details of the apartment he had missed the night before. There were stacks of musical scores on a shelf, some with handwritten notes, and a small frame with a music conservatory diploma discreetly hanging on the wall. You studied music? He asked, pointing to the diploma. Emily followed his gaze and blushed slightly. A long time ago, she replied, avoiding his eyes. Another life. Mom played piano in beautiful places, Lily said, biting a piece of panettone. She showed me pictures. She had beautiful dresses and many people watching. Lily, dear, Emily said softly, but Michael noticed the discomfort in her voice. You were a professional pianist? He asked, genuinely interested. I was, Emily admitted, stirring her coffee. I played in orchestras, did some solo concerts, but that was before Lily was born. And why did you stop? The question created an uncomfortable silence. Lily continued drawing, unaware of the tension that settled between the adults. Emily took a deep breath before answering. Because being a single mother isn't compatible with the life of a concert pianist, she finally said. Tours, late rehearsals, constant travel. Lily needed stability, and I needed to be present for her. Michael could sense there was more to the story, but didn't insist. Instead, he observed the way Emily looked at her daughter, with a love so deep it was touching. Do you regret it? He asked softly. Never, Emily responded immediately, smiling at Lily. She's the best music I've ever created. The rest of the morning passed quickly. Michael helped Lily organize her new drawing, materials, while Emily tidied up the house. There was a natural domesticity in that routine that he had never experienced, but that made him feel strangely complete. It was when Emily's phone rang that the mood changed. She looked at the display, and her expression hardened. I need to take this, she said, going to the bedroom. Michael heard part of the conversation through the slightly open door. Emily's voice was tense, almost whispering. No, Jason. We've already talked about this. She's fine. She's happy. It's not about money. You can't just show up when it's convenient for you. Lily looked toward the bedroom, and Michael saw a shadow pass across the girl's face. It's Daddy, she said softly. He calls sometimes, but Mum gets sad afterward. Michael felt a knot in his stomach. So there was a father in the story, someone who clearly caused problems for Emily and... Lily, he doesn't live with you? Michael asked carefully. No, he left when I was little, Lily answered, returning to her drawing. Mum said he had important things to do. Emily returned from the conversation clearly shaken. Her eyes were red, and she avoided looking at Michael. Is everything okay? He asked. Yes, it is, she lied, forcing a smile. Just family matters. Is Daddy coming to visit? Lily asked, and Michael saw Emily stiffen. I don't know, sweetheart. Maybe. I hope so, Lily said, but her voice didn't carry much conviction. Michael realized this was an open wound in the small family. There was a painful story there, and he felt like an intruder witnessing it. Maybe I should go, he said, standing up. No, Lily protested. You just got here. Lily, Michael must have important things to do, Emily said, but her voice was tired. Actually, Michael heard himself saying, I don't have anything important to do. If you don't mind, I'd like to stay a little longer. Emily looked at him with surprise. You don't have family to visit, commitments? I do, he admitted, but I prefer to stay here if you want my company. We do, Lily shouted, running to hug his legs. Emily smiled, and for the first time since the call she seemed to relax. Then stay, but I'll prepare a simple lunch. We don't have much at home. How about if I do the shopping? Michael suggested. I can bring ingredients and cook for you. You know how to cook? Lily asked, amazed. I'm a bit rusty, Michael admitted, laughing, but I think I can manage. Emily hesitated but eventually agreed. Just nothing too expensive, okay? I promise, Michael said, dramatically placing his hand on his heart, which made Lily laugh. When he left to do the shopping, Michael found himself thinking about the conversation he had overheard. Who was Jason? Why had Emily been so disturbed by his call? And why did Lily seem so resigned to her father's absence? One thing was certain. There were more layers to that family than he had imagined, and for the first time in his life, he found himself genuinely concerned about people other than himself. If you found this story interesting, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give it a like. Tell us which city you're watching from. We continue. Michael returned from the supermarket with bags full of fresh ingredients, determined to prepare a special meal for Emily and Lily. He had carefully chosen each item, not the most expensive products, but the best within a reasonable budget, respecting Emily's sensitivity about accepting help. "You brought a lot of stuff," Emily observed, helping him put away the products. "Don't worry," Michael smiled. "I promised it wouldn't be extravagant." Lily watched everything with curiosity, especially interested in the chocolate package he had bought. "Are we making dessert?" she asked, her eyes shining. "We're going to make fudge," Michael announced. "Or rather, you're going to teach me how to make fudge." "I know how," Lily jumped. "Mom taught me." As they prepared lunch together, Michael noticed how Emily gradually relaxed. She guided him in the kitchen, correcting his way of cutting onions and laughing when he confused the seasonings. There was a growing intimacy between them, built through small gestures and shared glances. "You really don't know how to cook?" Emily laughed when he almost burned the garlic. "I said I was rusty," Michael defended himself, smiling. "But I'm learning from the best teacher." Lily was sitting on the kitchen counter, supervising the preparation of the fudge. "Mom, Michael is getting good at cooking," she observed. "He is," Emily agreed, and Michael noticed she was looking at him differently, no longer with initial distrust, but with something akin to affection. During lunch, the conversation flowed naturally. Michael told funny stories about his early years as an entrepreneur, omitting the more ostentatious details of his wealth. Emily talked about her work giving music lessons at the daycare, and Lily showed more drawings she had made with her new pencils. "Can I ask you something?" Michael said after Lily went to her room to play. "Of course," Emily replied, collecting the plates. "About your music career. Have you ever thought about going back?" Emily stopped what she was doing, looking out the window. "Every day," she admitted. "But it's not that simple." "Because of Lily?" "Not just because of her," Emily sighed. "When you leave the music circuit for a few years, opportunities disappear. Younger pianists appear, with less baggage. And I have a lot of baggage." Michael could tell she was referring to more than just family responsibilities. "Do you want to talk about it?" Emily studied him for a moment, as if deciding whether she could trust him. Jason, Lily's father, he was also a musician, a violinist. We met in the orchestra. "What happened?" "He had big dreams, big ambitions," Emily continued, her voice getting lower. "When I found out I was pregnant, he said a baby would ruin our careers. He said I should choose between music and being a mother." Michael felt anger growing in his chest. "And you chose Lily." "I chose both," Emily corrected. "I thought we could find a way to make it work, but he couldn't handle the responsibilities. He said I had changed, that I wasn't the woman he fell in love with anymore." "He abandoned you?" "Not exactly," Emily sighed. "He still shows up sometimes, makes promises to Lily, says he'll come back. But there's always an excuse, always something more important." Michael now understood why the morning call had disturbed Emily so much. "That's why you got tense when he called today." "He said he wants to visit Lily for New Year's," Emily explained. "Said he has a surprise for her. But I know how these stories end. And Lily." "She still has hope," Emily said, and Michael could see the pain in her eyes. "Every time he promises to come, she gets excited. And every time he doesn't show up, she's sad for days." Michael moved closer to her, gently touching her arm. "You're protecting her the best way you can." "I'm trying," Emily whispered. "But sometimes I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. Maybe she needs to know her father better. Or maybe she needs people who really care about her, Michael said, looking into her eyes. People who don't make promises they can't keep. Emily stared at him, and Michael saw something change in her expression. There was a vulnerability there that she rarely showed, a need to be seen and understood. Michael, she said softly, can I ask you something? Anything. Why are you here? Really? Not because Lily invited you, not because you feel lonely. Why are you here? Michael was silent for a moment, processing the question. The answer surprised him with its simplicity. Because here I feel real, he finally said. When I'm with you, I'm not the CEO, not the businessman, not the son who disappoints his parents. I'm just Michael. And it's been so long since I felt this way that I'd almost forgotten who Michael really was. Emily smiled, and for the first time since they met, she moved closer to him. I like Michael, she said. I like him very much. And at that moment, with Lily playing in the room and the afternoon sun coming through the simple window, Michael knew he had found something he didn't know he was looking. For the following days passed like a dream for Michael. He had cancelled all his appointments for the week between Christmas and New Year's, ignoring the insistent calls from his secretary and the urgent emails from his partners. For the first time in his adult life, he was living in the present, not planning for the next quarter or analyzing financial reports. Every morning he appeared at Emily's apartment with ingredients for breakfast. Sometimes he brought fresh bread from the bakery, other times fruits from the market. Never anything extravagant, always respecting Emily's sensitivity about accepting help. You're spoiling us, she said on a Thursday morning as they prepared sandwiches together. You're spoiling me too, Michael replied, watching Lily drawing at the table in the living room. I'm getting addicted to this routine. And your business? Your company? They can wait, he said, surprising himself with his own answer. For the first time, I have something more important. Emily stopped cutting tomatoes, looking at him. Michael, you need to think about the future. This, whatever this is, can't last forever. Why not? Because you have a life, a career, responsibilities, she said, but her voice didn't carry much conviction. And what if I don't want that life anymore? The question hung in the air between them. Emily went back to cutting tomatoes, but Michael could see she was processing his words. Mom, can Michael come with me to daycare today? Lily asked from the table. I want to show teacher Sarah my new drawings. Of course, sweetie, Emily replied, if Michael wants to go. I'd love to, Michael said, and realized it was true. He really wanted to know Lily's world, to see where she spent her mornings. The daycare was a few blocks from the apartment, a simple but well-maintained building with children's drawings decorating the exterior walls. Lily ran ahead, excited to show her new materials to the teachers. Teacher! Sarah! She shouted, hugging a middle-aged woman with a warm smile. This is Michael. He's our special friend. Nice to meet you, said Sarah, extending her hand. Lily hasn't stopped talking about you. As Lily played with the other children, Michael observed Emily interacting with the little ones. She sat at the old piano in the corner of the room and began to play a soft melody. Immediately the children gathered around her, singing along. It was then that Michael saw for the first time the pianist Emily had been. Her fingers moved over the keys with natural elegance, and there was a light in her eyes he had never seen before. She was in her element, completely at ease, radiating genuine happiness. She's amazing, isn't she? Sarah approached him. The children love her lessons. She should be performing on big stages, not here. Why do you say that? Because I saw her play before, Sarah explained. Before Lily was born, I was a fan of hers. I went to concerts whenever I could. She had a rare gift. Michael kept watching Emily, feeling something tighten in his chest. She had sacrificed so much and yet radiated love and dedication for those children. Teacher Sarah, Lily approached. Can I show Michael the surprise we're preparing? Of course, dear. Lily led Michael to a corner of the room where there was a small exhibition of children's drawings. We're going to do a performance on New Year's, she explained excitedly. "I'm going to play piano, and the other children are going to sing. Mum said I can do a solo." "A solo?" Michael smiled. "That's very important." "Yes. And you know what else? Mum said maybe she'll play with me. She almost never plays in public." Michael looked at Emily, who was still at the piano with a group of children. The idea of seeing her perform, even in a small daycare, moved him. "Will you come to watch?" Lily asked, holding his hand. "I wouldn't miss it for anything," Michael promised. On the way back home, Lily ran ahead while Michael and Emily walked side by side. "She's very excited about the performance," Michael commented. "Yes, she loves music," Emily smiled. "Sometimes I think she inherited more than I would like." "Why do you say that?" "Because I know how cruel music can be," Emily sighed. "It can elevate you to the heavens and destroy you the next day. I don't want her to go through what I went through." "But you didn't go through it alone," Michael said gently. "You had Jason." "I thought I did," Emily corrected. "But when things got tough, when I really needed him, he wasn't there." Michael stopped walking, making her stop too. "I'm here," he said, looking into her eyes. "And I'm not going anywhere." Emily stared at him for a long moment. "You can't promise that, Michael. You don't know what the future holds." "I know what I want," he replied. "I want to be here with you. I want to be part of your lives." "And your life, your company?" "I'll find a way to reconcile," Michael said, gently touching her face. "For the first time, I have something worth fighting for." Emily closed her eyes, leaning into his touch. "I'm afraid," she whispered. "Of what?" "Of believing. Of allowing myself to feel what I'm feeling for you." Michael felt his heart race. "And what are you feeling?" "That you might be the person I've been waiting for all my life," she said, opening her eyes, "and that terrifies me." Before Michael could respond, Emily's phone rang. She looked at the screen and paled. "It's Jason," she said. "Again." And at that moment, Michael knew his story of happiness was about to be tested. On December 31st, Michael woke up with a strange feeling in his stomach. It wasn't just the anticipation of Lily's performance at the daycare, but something deeper, as if that day would mark a definitive turning point in his life. He arrived at Emily's apartment earlier than usual, finding her nervous in the kitchen, obsessively stirring her coffee. "Is everything okay?" he asked, gently touching her shoulder. "Jason confirmed he's coming today," she said without looking at him. "He said he wants to see Lily's performance." Michael felt a tightness in his chest. "And how do you feel about that?" "Confused," Emily admitted. "Part of me wants him to come for Lily's sake. She deserves to have her father present, even if it's just for a few hours. But another part is afraid of what it might mean." "Afraid of what?" "That he might try to come back, that he'll promise things he can't deliver, that he'll destroy the stability we've built." Michael wrapped his arms around her, feeling her tremble slightly. "Hey, look at me," he said, gently lifting her chin. "No matter what happens today, I'll be here. We'll face this together." At the daycare, preparation for the performance was in full swing. Lily wore a light blue dress that Emily had bought, especially for the occasion, and her hair was tied with a matching ribbon. She radiated nervousness and joy at the same time. "Mum, do you think Dad will really come?" she asked for the 10th time that morning. "I don't know, sweetheart," Emily replied, adjusting the ribbon in her daughter's hair. "But if he doesn't come, we'll still have a beautiful performance." Michael observed the interaction between mother and daughter, admiring the way Emily protected Lily without taking away her hope. It was a delicate balance that she maintained masterfully. The performance began at 3 in the afternoon. The small daycare auditorium was packed with the children's family members, and Michael sat in the front row, recording everything with his phone so they could watch it later. Lily performed magnificently, playing a simplified version of Amazing Grace that she had rehearsed with her mother. Her small fingers found each key with precision, and when she finished, the auditorium erupted in applause. "Now," Lily announced into the microphone, "my mom is going to play a special song with me." Michael saw Emily hesitate for a moment, but then make her way to the piano. Mother and daughter sat side by side, and together they began to play a moving version of Imagine by John Lennon. It was then that Michael saw a familiar figure discreetly enter through the back of the auditorium. He was a tall man with dark hair and an elegant posture, holding a bouquet of flowers. Even though he had never seen him before, Michael immediately knew it was Jason. With the music finished, Lily searched for her father in the audience, and, when she saw him, her face lit up. "Daddy!" she shouted, running toward him. Jason hugged her, lifting her into the air, and for a moment, Michael saw genuine happiness on Lily's face. But when he looked at Emily, he saw a completely different expression, not happiness but a mixture of concern and resignation. After the performance, as people mingled, Michael observed Jason interacting with Lily. He was charming, attentive, and clearly knew how to win over his daughter. But there was something in his behavior that bothered Michael, a performance, as if he were playing the role of the perfect father. "Emily," Jason approached, extending the flowers. "You were magnificent, as always." "Thank you," she replied, accepting the flowers but keeping her distance. "I need to talk to you," Jason continued. "In private." Michael saw Emily hesitate but eventually agree. They moved to a corner of the auditorium while Lily showed her drawings to other children. Even trying not to listen, Michael caught fragments of the conversation. Jason was talking about an incredible opportunity in New York, about how they could start over as a family, about how he had changed and matured. It was then that Michael heard something that made his blood freeze. "Emily, I got a contract. For you. New York Philharmonic. They need a pianist for the 2025 season. We can move together. Lily can study at a private school. You can go back to being the musician you always were." Michael saw Emily turn pale. "How did you get this?" "I have contacts, you know. I talked about your talent, about how you deserve a new chance." "And in return?" "In return for giving our family another chance," Jason replied. "Lily deserves to have her parents together. You deserve to return to the stage. I deserve forgiveness for how I treated you." Michael felt as if the ground was disappearing beneath his feet. It was everything Emily had dreamed of, returning to music, giving Lily a better life, having a complete family. How could he compete with that? "I need to think," he heard Emily say. "There's not much time," Jason insisted. "The opportunity is now. We can move at the end of January." Michael moved away from the conversation, feeling suffocated. He left the daycare and walked through the neighborhood streets, trying to process what he had heard. After 20 minutes, he returned to find Emily standing at the door, clearly looking for him. "Where were you?" she asked, concerned. "I needed some air," he replied, avoiding her eyes. "Michael, about what you heard?" "You should accept," he interrupted, surprising her. "It's an incredible opportunity. It's everything you've always wanted." "It's not everything I want," she protested. "Not anymore." "Emily, be honest," Michael said, finally looking at her. "You've known me for only a week. Jason is Lily's father. You have a history together. It makes sense to try again." "Makes sense to who?" Emily asked, her eyes filling with tears. "To you. Because to me, the only thing that makes sense is what I feel when I'm with you." Michael felt his heart tighten. "And what do you feel?" "That I love you," she said, the words coming out in a whisper. "I love you, Michael. And I know you love me too." "Love isn't enough," he replied, forcing harshness into his voice. "You have to think about what's best for Lily." "No," Emily moved closer to him. "You're not going to do this. You're not going to make this decision for me." It was then that Lily appeared, running toward them. "Michael, Daddy wants to meet you." Jason approached, extending his hand. "You must be Michael that Lily can't stop mentioning." "I am," Michael replied, shaking his hand. "Thank you for taking care of my family while I was away," Jason said, but there was something in his tone that wasn't completely friendly. "It wasn't care," Michael responded. "It was love." The word hung in the air between them. Jason studied Michael carefully, as if reassessing the situation. "Daddy," Lily interrupted, "Michael is part of our family now. He cooks with us, plays with me, and Mom is happy when he's here." "Is that so?" Jason looked at Emily, who confirmed with a nod. "Jason," Emily finally said, "I need to give you an answer about New York." "And what is it?" "I'm not going. My life is here. My family is here." Jason was silent for a moment. "Even if it means losing the chance to return to music?" "I won't lose," Emily smiled, looking at Michael. "I'll find another way. Here, with the people who really love me." "And me?" Jason asked. "And Lily?" "You'll always be welcome to visit Lily," Emily said gently. "But as a father, not as a husband. That door closed a long time ago." Jason nodded, and Michael saw that he understood. He knelt down to hug Lily. "Daddy will keep visiting you, okay, Princess, but Mommy is right. You have a good family here." "And Michael is part of it?" Lily asked. Jason looked at Michael, then at Emily. "If that's what you want, then yes, he's part of the family." 6 months later, Michael stood on the small stage of the daycare watching Emily at the piano. She now gave private lessons at home and had formed a small musical group with other mothers from the neighborhood. It wasn't the New York Philharmonic, but it was hers, built with love and dedication. Lily, now 7 years old, played her keyboard beside her mother, and Michael could see that she had inherited not only the musical talent, but also a genuine passion for music. "Mum, can I tell everyone?" Lily asked into the microphone. "Tell what, sweetheart?" "That Michael proposed to you and now he's officially my heart." "Daddy!" The auditorium erupted in applause, and Michael felt his eyes fill with tears. He looked at Emily, who was smiling radiantly, and at Lily, who was jumping with joy. At that moment, amid the smell of homemade cake and the sound of sincere applause, Michael understood that he had found something much more valuable than all the money in the world. He had found his true home. And for the first time in his life, he knew